You probably heard by now that they are trying to gerrymander stuff in Texas.
Yeah, so the Texas Democrats are still not back. I know we did report on this last week, and it's still at a standstill here, and they're just like holding out, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because they like a lot of them went to like Illinois or whatever, where J.D. Pritzker is presiding over, and they, as the governor, I believe, he's a billionaire, right? So he's a guy who's kind of quasi funding their these runaway Democrats. And when they asked him about it, now check this out. This is kind of a two-parter. Like, this is very interesting that, we're seeing this happen, and it's a crazy thing. But it's weird that the MSNBC almost looks like real news here. They pushed back on him about like, hey, wait a minute, because they asked him about how come you have 17 seats available for representation and only 3 of those are held by Republicans, even though about 40% of your state votes Republican, actually maybe even a little more. So, but you're only being represented by 3 representatives in Congress? That doesn't make any sense. And then you take a look at the maps, and the maps are all jerry-rigged. So it's just interesting. Let's see what they had to say when they pushed back on him. Because you don't see this often.
Sticking on your state's map, every major group that grades the fairness of congressional maps gives your state an F. Common Cause, a nonpartisan government watchdog, even says your map, and I'm going to quote, represents a nearly perfect model for everything that can go wrong with redistricting. And I guess the question is, you talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
Leader decides what.
Oh, yeah.
Commercial.
Tony, let me answer this one.
Cut to Tony. I have nothing.
Cut to Tony. Cut to Tony.
Tony really knows what to say.
Honestly, you'd probably get a little more out of his random response that had nothing to do with anything, and it would probably have been a little more coherent than what Pritzker had to say, because he basically doesn't say anything either. All he says is, when we do it, it's good, and when they do it, it's bad. Actually, are we up? You can play what he said if you want. It's funny because.
Distraction. The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now. And the fact that the president of the United States knows it and nevertheless is asking them to do it. That is what's wrong with what we're seeing right now. Democracy is at stake, and these Texas Democrats are standing up to what the GOP is attempting to do, which is to steal seats, because they know what they've done is wrong. They know that they've made an enormous mistake.
What?
So I'm not going to answer the question.
So we were asking about Illinois and your state. Yeah, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. What kind of map
is that? A river?
Yeah. Where a river runs through it. A congressional river. Yeah. And somehow they drew it up like this. They sliced it and diced it.
Does that look like a legit district to you?
Yeah, there's 17 available seats. And does that look like the majority of the state is being represented, or the state as a whole is being represented accurately, with only 3 seats being occupied by Republicans? Come on.
Yeah, no,
out of the 17, 3 out of 17. So 14.
Honestly,
somehow this
at the top should just be one district.
Yeah. I mean, and I know they're going to, you got these liberals. Oh, but right here, the population density. Yeah, we get it. But when 40% of the voting population is voting Republican, you'd think you'd have about a 40% split, rather than, 3 seats out of even half of 17. Well, you got like 8, somewhere around 8, a little more than 8.5, right? So you maybe call it 7, maybe 7 seats. Even like 6, but 3?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. Ridiculous. Come on. And we know it. They know it. But it's just awesome. Like Brian had pointed out, he said, I know it got a little chopped up there, but he's like, that's just a distraction. So she said, I'm going to quote the unpartisan watchdog group that had said that this is a near perfect model of everything that can go wrong. how is that a distraction? Are they the distraction? Where's the distraction there? Like, you didn't answer any of the question of how your state embodies exactly what's wrong with it. And then notice how it's just like, well,
now, you know
deny,
what the distraction
deflect,
is?
defend.
Every time they say our democracy's at stake, it's a threat to our democracy. That's the distraction. That's a tagline distraction. That's their default go-to every single time they get questioned about anything and they don't know what to say. It's always, but democracy, right? Every single time.
Right.
And so they've been doing this kind of stuff for years and making unfair districts to their advantage. And now Republicans are fighting back and saying, no, we're not going to do this kind of stuff anymore. We're going to make it actually fair and actually represent the state and the people. And they're fighting back. And now it's a threat to democracy.
See what they don't. Right. And and let's just keep going with that distraction thing. Here's the distraction of all of that. The Democrats have already gerrymandered the whole country.
Exactly.
That's how they got there, basically. You got Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Take a guess at how many Republicans are holding their congressional representative seats out of Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. A grand total of 0. They have 0. 0 seats are being held by Republicans. Now, does that sound like democracy? Does that sound like the will of the people who are voting? And like 30 to 40% of each one of those states, about 30 to 40% of their population are voting Republican, and yet they don't have any Republican representation, and that's because of those crazy cut-up lines. They don't ever want to talk about that. I don't know why everybody isn't blowing that up, because they totally should be. So there's 3 things here. You got like states like Texas, I think Indiana, or was it Ohio and Florida, who are all redrawing their maps to get more congressional seats. That's why they're trying to walk out here in Texas to see if they can pull some kind of stunt to either stall that or try to fight it. But they really know they don't have a chance. It's actually backfiring in their face already. Now, the other thing is that if other states, I probably should have done a little more research, been a little more prepared, but I can't remember what the court case is. There's a court case right now in front of the Supreme Court that is going to overturn a lot of this gerrymandering of districts. They, like we saw with Illinois, they already cut up the rest of the maps to yield those Democrat results, and they did it by race-based, what do they call it? Diffusion of the vote. So they were saying that there was too many white people. I mean, let's just cut right to it. I don't have to be politically correct here. There's too many white people in these districts, and so they had to cut up the map in order to represent minorities. And in 1986 is when they did this. And apparently that used to pass for, a strong enough court case for the Supreme Court to okay it back in the day. They are currently overturning that right now. It looks like it's going to be overturned, and that's going to give what's upwards about 25 new seats to Republicans, because they had been gerrymandering it across the country in these different states to take away votes from Republicans undemocratically through these court cases. So that you got states that were not gerrymandering it Republican, and they were all Republican states. Now you have the Democrat states that are going to have to be, because they're going to have to redraw their maps based because of the new ruling on the Supreme Court, which, you got 5 to 8 representatives from each one of these states now gaining for red states, up to 25 states, 25 representatives losing from these Democrat states. And then you got the Trump census. Yeah. So if Trump gets his census in by the mid-decade census, that, who knows how many that's going to be? Well, we got 10, 20 million, because all the sanctuary states are in Democrat states. So they could lose who knows how many. If anybody knows any numbers on that, I tried to look up. I couldn't really find anything that gave specific numbers. Throw it in the comments if you got any information on that. But we're talking about 30 plus swing of different states. But don't get lazy, guys. Don't get complacent. Don't get overconfident. We still need to show up, and we still need to stick it to them, and we still need to go hard, guys. We can't just sit back and hope that things turn out the way we want them to. So
Yeah, because Democrats are going to keep trying to do whatever they have the power to do to stop this redistricting,
right,
and to keep it how they've had it for so long.